Today we're going to be working with the question 1. So I did an overview a couple weeks ago. We're going to do question 1 today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the rubric and we're going to pull up a question 1 from the AP Classroom, realizing that there's only a handful of you who are actually doing the digital version, but I want to look at a question 1 that many of you have already done. Some of you have not done, but we're going to go over the components of it and talk about how you might address answering this question. So first of all, what we're going to do is go over the rubric. It's going to be fairly quick because we've gone over it before and you should understand what's going on, but I want to bring up a couple of points just to remind us. One, so row A, the thesis, responds to the prompt with a thesis that presents a defensible position. Over here, to get 0 points, you're only restating the prompt, do not take a position, equivocate or summarize other arguments, but not the students. So you're not doing this. Rather, you are response to the prompt. You're responding to the prompt rather than restate or rephrase the prompt, and not or, but and thesis clearly takes a position rather than just stating there are pros and cons. So you need to be taking an angle here. You need to find something you're writing about. It doesn't have to be this way, that way, or this way or that way. It could be this way at times, and I'm going to get to that when we get to row C, and maybe something else at other times. In row B, we're looking at evidence and commentary. Where do we want to be? We want to be in this 3-4 range. We don't want to be in the 2. What does the 2 look like? Provides evidence from or references at least 3 of the provided sources. All right, so you're doing that. Explains how some of the evidence relates to the student's argument, but no line of reasoning is established, or the line of reasoning is faulty. So if you have not really established that line of reasoning, which we've talked about quite a bit, to where there's a relationship between your ideas. It's not just here's an idea, oh, and here's an idea, oh, and here's an idea, oh, and here's an idea. It's here's an idea, and this relates to this idea because we need to do this well so we can do that, and this connects to this, which connects to both of these other. So there's a relationship between these, and your argument would suggest that these things have to be taken into consideration to fully understand your thesis, your argument, your position. The line of reasoning is faulty, where that goes is if you've misread, if you're making an argument that just doesn't make sense, or you're contradicting yourself in this without acknowledging the contradictions. So you're arguing that this should be in effect here. Like, but of course it shouldn't be in effect here. Like, well, then your line of their logic doesn't flow. So that would be a faulty line of reasoning. Rather, we would rather be in the 3 and 4. So let's look at the differences here. Provide specific evidence from at least 3 of the provided sources to support all claims in a line of reasoning. Provide specific evidence from at least 3. So it's the same here between 3 and 4. And explains how some of the evidence supports a line of reasoning. Consistently explains how the evidence supports a line of reasoning. So in here, the commentary part, so you have evidence here that is going to be the same, but your commentary is what differentiates between the 3 and the 4. So what that suggests is you could have the same evidence in this, but if your commentary is only dealing with how some of this follows your line of reasoning, then you're not going to be as effective. What you need to do is consistently explaining how each of these fit into your line of reasoning. Going back to my suggestion, you have 40 minutes to write this. You have 15 minutes to read these documents. In that amount of time, you're not going to be able to address every aspect of what's going on here. You're going to be able to address a few of them, a couple of them well. So you can acknowledge several, but you want to deal with a couple of items very well and go into depth there. You can read these, and I suggest that you have this rubric open as you're doing this next practice. Here is where I wanted to really touch base on, because the sophistication point is one that it clearly is going to be more subjective in a sense with the readers, but I think we can take some of that subjectivity out of it. Demonstrate sophistication of thought and or a complex understanding of the rhetorical situation. And here's what here's where I was alluding to earlier. they might give you a situation. We're going to look at one here in just a minute where they're talking about kindergarten, the academic nature of kindergarten. You could argue that, hey, it needs to be more academic, but sometimes they need to play as well. Or you could suggest, no, it needs to be less academic, but I understand that we need to focus on some things too. Once you understand like some complexities of a rhetorical situation where, maybe all the time this isn't the case. There's one where they write it where it's about advertising for children and the ethics is in discussing the ethics of this. Okay, well, is it ethical? Is it not ethical? Well, maybe sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. Maybe it could be an ethical tool, advertising to children, if it's utilized and regulated properly, but do we leave the advertisers to their own devices to do that? I don't know. But if I start asking those questions or bringing those ideas up, then I'm understanding some of the complexities of that rhetorical situation. And remember, the rhetorical situation is the triangle: the rhetor, ethos, the audience, pathos or pathos, and the exigence or the logos. So you need to establish your credibility by your argument making sense and being organized and being thoughtful, bringing in support from the documents that you're choosing, and then you are also understanding the audience and where they might understand and trying to get them engaged in this as well. And you have to do this in a logical, thoughtful line of reasoning that provides the logos. So sophistication of thought and or complex understanding of the rhetorical situation. Understanding the complexities of that, I think, is a really good place for us to kind of take some of the guesswork out for the readers so that they understand what to give you. All right, so let's look at a prompt. We're not going to go through the whole of the writing of this essay, but I would like to go through the prompt to kind of get you geared towards this question one. So here we go. So some of you have done this one before, some of you have not, but I'm just going to go ahead and read through the prompt. In the United States, kindergarten has generally been considered an educational setting that provides opportunities for children to ready themselves for the academic and social worlds of formal education. However, the 21st century drive toward increased academic standards has been felt even in the earliest grades, leading some researchers to express concern that the kindergarten experience is being compromised. So, all right, now we have the situation. There's kindergarten. There's this push in the 21st century to be more academically inclined. And some people are thinking maybe we're going too far and we're shifting this kindergarten experience a little bit too much. All right. Carefully read the following 6 sources, including the introductory information for each source. Write an essay that synthesizes material from at least 3 of the sources and develops your position on the extent to which, if any, kindergarten should be transformed into a more academic environment than it has been in the past. All right. So we know there are 6 sources, and they suggest that you read the introductory information too. That gives you kind of an idea whether that is a valid. So for example, in source A, Ann Svensson, Kindergarten Controversy of Family Education. This is a website preparing kindergarten controversy. Online parenting. Is it valid? You're going to have to determine that. So you would have to understand the source or think about the source and what they're saying. Is this something that's objective, subjective? So you have to qualify your use of those types of sources. So that's why the introductory information comes into play there. We've talked about that. Write an essay that synthesizes material. Okay, so we need to have at least 3. That's not going to change. What have I suggested? 3 is good, and there have been really good essays using 3 sources. No problem. But my suggestion also, I think, that 4 or 5 and using one of those as refutation is not a bad option either. Okay. 3 of the sources develops your position on the extent to which, if any, kindergarten should be transformed into a more academic environment than it has been in the past. So when I'm looking at this prompt, what am I starting to think? Well, I'm starting to question, is kindergarten too academic now? Are we moving to a too academic kind of level for this? I'm hearkening back to my days in the kindergarten, which were different than your days in the kindergarten. So start thinking about that. What experience did you have, and how has it changed today? And do you know how it's changed today? Do I need to lean on the sources to understand that? And then I need to think, should we be pushing for an academic space, or should we not? Should we be making this finger painting and nap time and playtime and more of a social place? And what would be the advantages to that? What would be the disadvantages to that? So I'm starting to form my idea as to what's going on here, or what I might be doing, and I might jot this down. Hey, well, I see that there we are pushing for more academics, and there need to be academic components to kindergarten, but I really think it's a social space where these kids need to be playing and getting to know each other and learning how to work in groups and work together and have fun together and just be kinesthetic, if you will, rather than very, static. So those are the things that would be going through my mind. I'd be jotting down. Then I'm going to engage in the text, and I'm going to look at the documents that they provided me and think, all right, where's my position? So for me to understand, or to get the row C, let's go back to that, a complex understanding of the rhetorical situation, I need to be acknowledging multiple aspects of this. I need to be thinking, okay, it's not academic, not academic. It's going to be, I need to think about why we would be pushing. Is this a valid thing? What's the future maybe going to look like for these kids who are 5 years old now, as opposed to, what's it going to be in the next 12 and 13 and 18 years before they're out of high school or college? What's the world going to look? So are we setting them up for failure if we don't do the academic thing? Do we need to just tweak it a little bit? So I'm trying to think about all of the um, contingencies, all of the uh, consequences of either the academic or the non-academic, the more social setting in kindergarten. And that's where that row C, if you start discussing those levels of choice, but you need to choose a position. So if any kindergarten should be transformed into a more academic environment than it has been in the past. So my thesis, my working or my beginning thesis might be something to the tune of kindergarten in the past has been almost a purely social and kinesthetic environment. However, given the demands of the academic world on students early in their school, we might need to make some adjustments. However, we should not divorce all social and all fun activities from kindergarten to accommodate wholly academic spaces. Something like that would be my idea, my thinking, and now I've taken a position. So yeah, we need to acknowledge this, but we don't need to get rid of all of the other things. And then I'm going to look at my documents and start thinking about where that might fall in. And they might tweak what I think, and that's fine. And then when I start writing my essay, I adjust that. You would take 10 minutes minimum to read these documents and take 40 minutes to write this essay. You have a prompt up on the AP Classroom. It's an assignment for all the classes. If you're a home student or if you're not in my class this semester, go ahead and do that. I'll be checking those over the weekend and Monday. So please do those, and I will be giving you feedback on those to help you. If you're not doing the digital version, which is most everybody, I think there's only 5 people who are doing the digital version after the regular AP exam. So if you're doing it on the 15th, like the majority of the people, I would really prefer that you handwrite this and bring it to me. Just drop it by my classroom. And if you can't drop it by my classroom, please handwrite it. Take a good picture of it so I can read what you've written, I'm sorry, and then submit it to me. You can either send it to me via email, or don't do it Google Classroom, because I probably won't be checking. It's not easy for me to check. It's not my face. the other classes right now. So if you're not in my class now, go ahead and email that to me or bring it to my classroom. I'll be happy to read over it and give you some feedback. All right, hope this helps, and I hope these videos will help you. And I know that it's tough right now the way we're doing things, but that's what we have. Have a great day, and I look forward to reading your essays.